All right, guys. Today I have a very special interview. Someone who I have known for quite a few months now. Someone who has been doing a lot of very hard work behind the scenes in the conservative movement. I'd like to introduce to the stage for us now Mr. William Donahue, who is the president of the College Republicans of America, looking like a classic professor with that good old whiteboard background, hanging out. William, how are you doing tonight?
It's great to be here, Jesse. Thanks for having me on.
Of course, thank you for coming on. So just first and foremost, for those in the audience who might not know what it is, can you explain what College Republicans of America is and why you started it?
Absolutely. So, College Republicans of America is a mission to restore the College Republican National Organization that once was a huge player in the GOP in terms of our grassroots activism and ability to create the Republican candidates of the future. The Republican National Committee, College Republican National Committee, worked together for a long time to create candidates. Karl Rove and Kevin McCarthy and major players within the GOP all went through the CRNC. And a couple of years ago, for a variety of reasons, primarily COVID, but also a couple other organizations that came to national prominence, the organization died. They're down to 30 or so chapters. Their social media is almost completely dead. Um, it's unfortunate, but there was a vacuum, and we filled it. The goal is to bring it back to 1,000 chapters or more across the country, get the grassroots machine revving up again. And we're at about 140 chapters in half the states in about 10 months. We're growing pretty quickly, and we're looking forward to getting to work in the upcoming election cycle.
Awesome. So just for those who might be out of the loop, who might not know for sure what's going on, can you kind of explain what kind of led to the downfall of the CRNC? How did they go from a very prominent organization, or like you said, people like McCarthy had to come through it to be able to have any sort of national prominence? How did they go from that to what they are today, where they're now bleeding off chapters left and right?
Mhm. It really started in 2019. They made the decision to remove the California College Republicans, of which I was chairman about a year and a half after they had kicked us out. California historically has been the largest and most influential state, despite it being a blue state, and it wasn't always a blue state. Um, McCarthy was treasurer of CCR back when he was in college, and the chairman of the Orange County Republican Party, was chairman of CCR. It was a huge organization, um, and it still is today. They've got over 30 chapters. But after California was removed, and the reason they were removed is because the former chairman for me, Chemo Gandol, had exposed that they were basically millions of dollars in debt, and that there were some unsavory, financial practices that were occurring within the upper leadership and side organizations, consultants from the Bush area that they were working with. After California left, it started a cascade as other chapters started to figure out what happened. Other large states left, like Texas and New York. And then we got COVID in 2020, and that crushed the rest of the infrastructure. You could make an argument that Turning Point had a large, play in that as well. When Turning Point, and we're partnered with Turning Point, we've found a way to rebrand and work together. But there were a couple of years there where Turning Point came onto the scene with major funding, and they took a large segment of the activism, away from the purpose of the College Republicans. And so many College Republicans chapters became Turning Point chapters. Many chapters folded during COVID, and the rest of the states kind of just went their own separate ways with the CRNC after the incident with California and a couple of the other states. There were also many states that were deplatformed and not given an opportunity to vote for the chairman elections. It was a mess. Um, we've restructured and rebranded CRA so that we don't have those problems. We don't have the same elections that CRNC did, so we're not going to have those election problems anymore.
Awesome. So what president of this organization, what goes into running an organization like this, whether it be which chapters and specific regions that you target, um, relationships with potential donors and existing donors, just behind the scenes, bureaucratic, for lack of a better word, type. What goes into running an organization like this, and how have you been able to manage that so far?
Um, it's like any other startup. You know, you have a lot of bureaucratic functions that are not very fun. And in the beginning, every innovator has to deal with those. It it's a lot of time, it's a lot of effort, it's a lot of busy work doing things that you don't want to do, building websites and drafting white papers and documents and throwing yourself at donors to try to get them to believe in your vision. It's no different than being an entrepreneur with a product, except you're not selling them a product, you're begging them to give you money to start up a political organization. It definitely wasn't easy, and to be honest, I can't take the credit by myself. I didn't build this organization by myself. Um, very beginning, the chairman and executive director of the Wisconsin College Republicans jumped into the fray with me. Soon after that, the president of the Dayton College Republicans joined the board, and the board just kept growing. It started out, for the first couple weeks, kind of putting everything together with a couple of general consultants that I knew, and we had a great CPA that helped us file a lot of the paperwork. Dylan Martin, the executive director of the California College Republicans, helped us build a website. So that there were a lot of key players that were involved at the very beginning of the organization. After it took off, probably about 5 or 6 months in, the board tripled in size, and now we've got 20 people volunteering and interning their time around the clock. A huge team for chapter outreach and press and social media coordination and content creation, and it's a lot. It's a lot of work, and it's been kind of a pain to continue to manage it in law school. And the only reason I've been able to do it is because I've got such a great team.
Yeah, for sure. With the Wisconsin College Republicans, I know that you've worked very closely with them. Was there an existing relationship and that kind of helped spur their participation in this, or was it more they saw what you were doing, they saw the vision that you were casting, and they wanted to jump in?
Yeah. So actually, what happened was I was actually suspicious of them at first. Funny enough, Billy and Jack were um, they they were interested in the organization. They reached out to me, and I'm trying to say this in the in the best way I can. This is the first time I've gotten this question. Jack is an interesting character, but Billy's an even more interesting character. Both incredibly loyal friends, and I'm so blessed to have both of them working on the project with me. But the way they kind of introduced themselves, it was like, hey, what is going on here? Because they were part of NFCR at the time, another side organization that split off of CRNC. And I told them I'm trying to create this national organization. We're going to try to pipeline students into industry and government jobs. And um, this is the funny part about it. I was talking to Billy about it, and Billy was like, "So what's your religious background?" I was like, "Oh, I'm Greek Orthodox," and he just like went down on one knee. He was just like, "Okay, fine, Greek Orthodox relationship here," because Billy's also Greek Orthodox, and was like, "Fine, we'll follow you." And so Wisconsin dropped NFCR on the spot and joined us, and we've just been best friends ever since. I'm not entirely sure how that happened. It's kind of a weird story, but how Billy and Jack joined.
For sure. So, what kind of impact have you seen so far through the new organization? I understand that you have a number of chapters across the country, a number of state organizations across the country. You've just recently added Virginia, added my College Republicans chapter here at Liberty University. You just recently added the New York Federation and a number of others. Can you kind of go into what has the impact looked like so far, and how many guys have y'all been able to kind of add into the organization since its inception?
Sure. So we started with California's 30 odd chapters and Wisconsin's 20 odd chapters. It was about 50, 55 chapters we started with. And we've almost tripled in size since then. Our membership is looking around 10,000 strong nationwide. Obviously, not all of those members are active, but we've been able to scrounge up several large deployments at this point, most notably in the Iowa caucuses. We had over 2 dozen kids flying from 9 different states to brave the -40 weather in Iowa. If it wasn't -40, we probably would have had a much larger turnout. Those couple dozen kids flew across the country, drove in horrible weather down from Madison, and they made well over 50,000 calls in 4 days. And we got over 1 million views on social media because the Trump team and Carrie Lake and Jason Miller and some others graciously platformed us on Twitter. There were some really great moments in that, including a flag drop in Des Moines that President Trump allowed our students to stand next to him for that. I think this is going to continue to grow. We made several tens of thousands more calls in New Hampshire. I know we're doing good work in South Carolina right now in the primary, but this is just the beginning of the fight, right? We're
Right.
we're also doing community service efforts across the country. We've done drives with Latino outreach, doing Bibles and backpacks in underprivileged cities in Los Angeles, food drives in Syracuse, New York. A lot of our chapters have contributed to Project Teddy, which is our environmental initiative to start cleaning up forests and beaches and other nature reserves. I think it's really important as conservatives to conserve the environment, not necessarily buy into the global warming side that I think, but Teddy Roosevelt considered conserving our environment to be a really important part of our platform, and so we do too. So small impacts here and there across the states as we become more organized and we continue to generate more donations. Our ability to do outreach campaign and to obviously CRA itself doesn't campaign. We campaign through our member chapters and they volunteer their time strictly for campaign finance reasons. But the chapters have been doing a lot of really good work on those fronts. So we're going to continue to grow. I'm looking forward to the general election once we can kind of push past this. But anyways, Jesse, I may end up being kicked out for a class right now.
Well, we are nearing the end of the time anyway. Well, thank you so much for hopping on here and speaking with us today about CRA. I hope to continue the great effects that you guys are doing. I'm glad that Liberty University and our College Republicans chapter here, as well as the State Federation for Virginia, can be a part of that. Thank you for all the hard work and thank you for joining.
Thank you very much for joining, Jesse. We're glad to have you guys on board. Looking forward to what Virginia's going to be able to do in the cycle, and we're here for you always.
Awesome. Thank you.